I'm not really making any points here. I just wanted to complain a little bit about stats and these curves and that kind of stuff. You had the video with the cheaters, and that's interesting because okay, so there was a bimodal distribution for people on an exam, and these people were the cheaters. They scored really high because they had the answers in advance, and then these were the people that took the test without cheating. And the teacher could tell by the stats, and could tell because people told him, "Hey, look, there's answer keys floating around for this." But as far as the fate versus control debate, right? You can say, well, these cheaters, they got punished, but they made the choice to cheat. But the punishment was that everybody had to take the test again, including these people. So these people got the punishment through no fault of their own. That's the point I'm trying to make, is that they, these people, the cheaters, they chose to cheat. They chose to cheat, but they didn't choose to get caught. If they knew they were going to get caught, they would have made a different choice. So is that a choice, or is that just dumb luck? And clearly over here, these people got the punishment through no fault of their own, because they didn't cheat on the test, and they got the punishment anyways. And so it's kind of more about exploring the paradox. It's about, instead of, I don't think there's an actual answer to this question of fate versus control. But they're both going on. It's kind of a trade-off. Certainly, if you just accept your fate and do nothing, then you're going to be worse off than someone that does try and make themselves better. If you're born into a rich society and are lazy, you can still end up with nothing. Or if you're a poor person, you could become rich if you worked really hard, although it would be a lot harder than people that start out rich and then also work hard. So social mobility, is it hard work, or is it where you're born into? Well, the answer is a little bit of both, but it gets worse over time, and I'm going to talk about that with trade. This is something called the Edgeworth box, which has to do with indifference curves. And indifference curve is a thing in economics, a trade-off between two things. So, okay, I've got this. I play this G.I. Joe video game, and the other day I traded one Cobra Commander for 2 Dukes. Cobra Commander is the leader of the evil group, and then Duke is the leader of the American soldiers. And so I traded one Cobra Commander for 2 Dukes. And if you asked anybody, they'd be like, well, certainly I got 2 for 1, so I'm kind of got the better deal in that one. That doesn't mean that the guy that traded me the Dukes isn't also better off. He wouldn't have done it if he didn't prefer one Cobra Commander to his 2 Dukes. So we're both better off, but I'm a little bit more better off than he is, we'll say, in that trade. And so trade makes people better off, but not necessarily the same. This is what we call an indifference curve. For some quantity of Cobra Commanders, I'd be indifferent between that and the quantity of Dukes. And it's about into the middle, because here I'd have a lot of Cobra Commanders and not a lot of Dukes. And so I'd be willing to trade more Cobra Commanders to get some Dukes, is the idea that it's convex. Or here I'd have a lot of Dukes, not a lot of Cobra Commanders. People like variety, so they, these kind of points are better off in the middle. And then, there's different indifference curves here. These indifference curves, I'm worse off than this one. Here I've got some Cobra Commanders and a little bit of Dukes, but here I've got more Cobra Commanders, or the same amount of Cobra Commanders, but more Dukes. So the farther we go out this way, I'm better off. And then farther down here, I'm worse off with these distributions of combinations between the two goods. And so let's say that if there's a set endowment, like a number of Cobra Commanders, a number of Dukes that exist, the tool we can do is we can bring this person's graph and kind of flip it over on top of this person's graph, right? So here's a set amount of Cobra Commanders, set amount of Dukes, right? So I'm looking at it this way, and the other person would be looking at it that way. And we'll say this is the minimum amount I'd be willing to trade. It's really hard to explain this kind of thing, but these trades would be, aren't as good. I wouldn't be as good in these trades. And this person is looking at it the other way, so things like going like that, where I'm looking at it like this. So here's his 0, 0, here's my 0, 0. And his minimum amount that he would trade is like that. And he'd be worse off with these guys to the point where he wouldn't even want to trade. So these are the indifference curves where we would trade, but and so we're better off anywhere in the middle of this football-looking shape than we would. And the optimal point, the equilibrium, would be here, where we have a tangency condition. The second order derivative would be equal at this point, where we're both better off. But because of some inequality, we might trade here, let's say, where I'm better off. Or we might trade over here, where he's, gets more of the gains from trade. And so where we're going to do it, we're going to do it here or we're going to do it here, is a question of power. Right now, the people that work at Walmart are trying to get better wages. Let's say this is a trade-off for wages. And this is numbers of hours worked, right? Well, at this lowest indifference curve, they're basically just scraping by. Anything below it, it's just not even worth working. And then on this one, the Walmart company, they would hire employers, but they wouldn't make any profit. And so, where does the profit or the extra wages go is anywhere in the middle. And the people that work don't have the power, so they're going to have the wages down here, and the shareholders are going to get all of that. And then as we iterate this process, the shareholders get more and more power, and are just going to push people closer and closer, maybe even beyond this line, because if you're not working, you don't have anything. And that's the end of my video. I don't know if I really made any points, but that's what I wanted to say.